Hi, I'm Barbara Bruce, and welcome to Get Out, a weekly virtual broadcast where we invite you to grab your friends and family, grab your car keys, fill up the gas tank, and get out with us somewhere in the White Mountains. And we are out today. Today is a serious program. We have a lot of fun a lot of times, but today is something I think people need to know about. Many people have not had to set up a funeral for a loved one. And today I'm with Tim Livingston, Owens Livingston Mortuary.
Yep, thank you. I have to remind you that the first three letters of every funeral are F-U-N, so there's fun in every funeral.
And you know, I actually hadn't thought of it that way, but I can tell you when I looked at your website, I was so impressed that, you know, there are actually, well, I guess it's a cheat sheet more or less. You can go down and look, and it gives you all of the different things that you need to think about, and hopefully people think about it before they get here.
Yeah, we hope so too. It will make it a lot easier when they do have to come through our front door, that's for sure.
Absolutely. One of the things that I know, because I'm a widow, and I was a young widow, I was only 43 when my husband died. I had no idea what to expect. My grandparents had passed before, but I had no idea what my mother and her brothers and sisters went through. And it was a rude awakening, if you will, because you're in shock when you walk in the door. And we actually are at the very front. And today we want to go through to give people a little bit of an education, because this year I've had so many people tell me, we had no idea what to do.
Well, I have to tell you that, you know, our front door, we realize that this is the last door people want to walk through. And I know that dealing with our public, they don't want to walk through the front door of my mortuary, and I totally understand that. But when they do walk through our door, we want them to feel welcome. We want them to feel at home. We want them to feel that a burden will be lifted from their shoulders, and that's what we try to do every single time a family walks through our door. This is to lighten their load.
I think of compassion. That's the word that first comes to mind when I think of somebody walking through that front door.
Yeah, that's what we think of too. So,
well, today what we're going to do is we're going to walk through as if we had come in to seek your help.
Okay.
And I know that there are so many different things to think about, and we're going to talk about those. But before we do that, I would love it if you would share how you got into this, because not everybody could be a funeral director.
Oh gosh, we're going way back.
We're going way back, but not that far.
Well, far enough anyway. About 35 years I've been in funeral service now, and I just fell into it while I was going to Brigham Young University. I got a part-time job at the local funeral home there in Provo, and I just fell in love with the job, with the work that I was able to help with. I enjoyed the science part of it, and the anatomy part of it, the service part of it, and at the end of the day, there's no description for the feeling that I felt at the end of the day, and that's the reason why I do what I do today.
It's emotional, and a lot of people wouldn't understand why would somebody get into this, but you actually make lives better.
I just remember how good I felt at the end of the day for a job well done, and helping families truly when they're at their lowest moments, you know, dealing with the death of a spouse or a parent or a child or a relative of any degree. You know, it's hard, and always, again, we're there to uplift and encourage and make their week a little bit easier.
And how do you keep yourself up? Because it's hard, you know.
We laugh a lot.
There's a lot of Kleenex around here.
There's a lot of Kleenex, but like I said, and I said this tongue-in-cheek, that, you know, the first three letters of every funeral are F-U-N. I believe in enjoying myself when I'm at work, and if I can make somebody smile, I will. And if somebody wants to smile along with me, even better. So we have a good time at work. We really do.
That's great.
Families, they share the best stories when they're sitting across the desk from me. the best I remember when stories, and you can't help but laugh when you're listening to those great stories that they're sharing about their loved one. They're incredible.
You know, COVID has been a very hard time because a lot of times early on people couldn't even get together. And so it made it really hard because one of the things that I discovered, because my parents were back in Alabama and we didn't have funerals for various reasons. And it was so hard because I found that you need to get together, the loved ones. You need to share the stories. You need to laugh and you need to cry.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've heard this or not, but it's been scientifically proven that there are 38 toxins in a tear of sadness and only 1 toxin in a tear of joy.
I did not know that, but I will remember that.
I thought you would.
38 toxins in every tear of sadness.
You need to cry, and men really need to cry as well. We all have tear ducts.
Yep.
So let's go through here as if we were going to help someone that came in for the first time.
Okay.
Okay, come and follow us. Tim, we're on this journey today, so what happens in this room?
Well, this is one of our arrangement conference rooms, and we try to make this room look like a room that you might find in your own home, with the couches, the wingback chairs, beautiful artwork, you know, chandeliers, the mirrors. We just want people to feel like they're in a home setting and a little more relaxed as opposed to having a desk, or I'm sitting across from one, you know, the other side of the desk, and you're all on the other side. We're around this table together.
And you know what comes to mind for me?
Dinner.
Yes, exactly. I think where most conversation happens with family is at the dinner table.
That dinner table is such an important piece of furniture in your family home. That is where the family decisions are made. And likewise, in the funeral home, this is where a lot of the decisions are made when arranging for their loved one's funeral or cremation service.
So what do you start out with here?
Basically, to kind of break the ice, I'll usually just carry on a casual conversation just so I can get a feeling of whom I'm working with and get a feeling for the family and let them know that I'm not here just about the business. I'm here to genuinely take the best care that I possibly can of them. And part of that will necessitate me learning a little bit about their loved one. I frequently ask them, you know, tell me about the dying process for their loved one. Was it a good death? You know, because we do experience good deaths, we have bad deaths. And I'll ask them about their illness and ask them about what they were like, you know, growing up. You know, how did you two meet as husband and wife? And that's where I hear the best stories. Again, a lot of laughter. There's people start telling the remember when stories, and they are the best. They are just beautiful.
This is the icebreaker.
This is the icebreaker, exactly.
Yes.
And then what we'll do is we'll go into the necessary paperwork that we need to fill out and complete, and one of those forms is actually the death certificate. We literally generate the death certificate here in our office. The doctor doesn't generate them on as a general rule. We generate them here with the information that we gather from the family. There's a lot of information that goes on that death certificate that is vital, statistical by nature, and lots of times we catch people off guard because sometimes they don't know all the answers that we do need. For example, we need to know, you know, the name, the complete legal name of the individual. And you'd be surprised at how many people don't know how their loved one's complete legal name should read. And we have to go off of what the Social Security Administration has on their records as far as the heading is concerned for the death certificate. We need to know when and where they were born. We need to know their Social Security number. We need to know their education level. We need to know their mother's complete maiden name and their father's name. If they're not from Arizona, we need to know when they moved to Arizona. We need to know what their occupation was. And what the state's asking is they want to know the job title the individual held the longest throughout their life. And that's what will go on the death certificate.
And all of that information actually is beneficial for the obituary.
Exactly. We use a lot of that information in the obituary.
Recently, I've never written an obituary
Yeah.
before, but I was doing an interview and the family insisted that I do the obituary.
I remember that.
Well, I want you to know I spent an entire day. I did not just spend a little bit of time, and it was amazing to me. The family had so many gaps in the information, and even though St. Google is something that I use on a regular basis, we couldn't find out all the information. So I had to use the best of what I had, but luckily there were other obituaries to go by.
Exactly, good models. And lots of times, again, families, they're not used to writing obituaries. And lots of times they don't even want to attempt to write an obituary, but frequently we'll ask them if you can give us some bullet points, we'll be glad to compose it for them. And you'd be surprised at how many hours a night I will spend on my laptop composing people's obituaries that we post to our website. It's our day does not end at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Our days, as far as the funeral home is concerned, we continue working until the work is through.
And recently I called you, and you were coming back from California. You had done a funeral over there, which surprised me.
Yeah. Well, this morning I've been down to Safford and back already, so.
Really?
Yeah.
So you go anywhere?
I go anywhere and everywhere. So.
But you have 3 different locations of your own for the funeral homes, and you have your own crematory.
We do. We've had our own crematory since 1978.
Really?
It's the oldest operating crematory here in Navajo County. Though we're not located in Apache County, we have also served the Apache County area for decades for their death care needs. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Those are things that we don't think about, but hopefully this segment will let people know that as they think of these things, they should write it down.
Yeah, write them down.
You know, I ordered from Franklin Planner. They have a lot of good tools, and it's a book where I'm supposed to write all the things that are important to me, maybe who I would like to have them. This is in addition to a will. It actually helps you with a will. And then there are other things that you need to write down as you think about it that people don't know. My sister recently asked me something about our great-grandmother, and she is 9.5 years younger than me, and she didn't know this.
Yeah.
I did. So it takes the whole family to get this information together.
It really does. And that's one thing that I have always been interested in my own family history. I could tell you birth dates of all my grandparents. I could tell you all the names of my great-grandparents. I could tell you where they were born, where they were raised. And again, it's just always been something that has been near and dear to me my whole life. You know, my mother, she was our family genealogist, if you will, and then with the age of the internet, you know, family history kind of took off throughout the whole world, and then my dad was bitten by that genealogy bug, and he became a master genealogist, actually, since the computer age. But yeah, I'm fascinated with family histories.
And as we get older, we want to know more.
Yeah.
Well, where will we go next?
Well, we're going to go ahead and walk down the hallway. We're going to go into the casket selection room. You know, one of the details we take care of in here will be discussing the arrangements that an individual wants to have, and or the arrangements they want to make for their loved one. And one of those details will include selecting a casket. So we do have a large casket selection room that is unique to our area. We have the largest casket selection in the entire county.
Oh my
right here in
goodness.
Show Low, so.
And what about urns?
We also have urns to choose from as well. I'll walk you in and I'll show you those as well. So.
Okay, that's great. Let's go.
Let's go. Right down the hallway.
Here we are in the casket room, and I look around and I can only imagine how difficult it is. I was in a situation where my husband's family wanted to have a viewing. Yes. I did not. He wanted to be cremated. So to keep the peace, I actually had them go through the embalming process, and we had a viewing, and then we did the cremation, and that worked.
That is a common practice for us here. You know, cremation is becoming more and more popular, if you will, amongst all segments of our society throughout the United States. And here in Arizona, where I am in Show Low, we might take care of 50% cremation and 50% burial. We're about half and half.
Really?
But cremation is on the rise. It is
That's what I thought. I'd seen more of that in the obituaries. Now, the problem is when we come into this room, there are so many choices, and you want your loved one to have the best, but sometimes you have to economize.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I always tell families, it doesn't matter what you pick for the casket, whether it's wood or whether it's metal, whether it's elaborate, whether it's simple. When you have a casket alone in a room by itself, for the memorial, people don't have anything to compare it to. And even the simplest of the caskets, they are totally, and they're beautiful. They're totally perfect.
That's good, because a lot of people feel guilty about that.
And again, the last thing I want to be is a financial burden to anybody. And if folks want to come in and they want to pick, something elaborate and expensive, they surely can. But if they want to pick something very simple and more economical, they surely may do that too. And we'll encourage them to do whatever they're comfortable with. Again, we give them the information and they make their decisions accordingly.
Exactly. So can you just show us from the different levels so we have an idea?
Yeah, well, a lot of the room, you'll notice the different casket cuts. I have casket end pieces that are hanging on our wall. Because of the size of the room, we can't show all these caskets in their entire in their entirety in the same room. But caskets, they range in cost from about $1,300 on up to $10,000. So, and there's any number in between.
A wide range.
Yes, and basically you have two types of caskets. You have those that are termed protective, those that are termed non-protective. And people say, well, what's the difference? Well, lots of times people hear the term protective, they don't really know what that means, but they do know what a sealing casket is. They're familiar with that term, but technically we call them those protective caskets. And basically the difference between the two is that when you have a protective casket, there's a rubber gasket that goes around the entire top of the casket, and that when that casket is closed...
Oh, this is one.
Yeah. When that casket is closed, they have these little strike pins that are inserted into these holes here. As we seal the casket closed with a special key right here, there's a bar that you don't see that's being brought forward, and it grabs hold of these bars and it pulls that whole casket lid as well as the foot panel down into that rubber gasket, and it does create an airtight, watertight seal. That's what makes it protective.
And as I come in here and I'm looking, I think about the other room that we were in where you were talking about different things that happen. You have to think about pallbearers. You have to think about all those different things, the arrangements, what's going to happen with the viewing, or if there is no viewing. Also vaults. More and more people are choosing to do vaults, I understand.
Well, here in our area we have, again, grave liners, and the difference between a grave liner and a vault, again, it's that sealing mechanism. A vault, by its definition, is an airtight, watertight chamber that when it's closed, the casket that's inside that vault is protected from the outside elements. So what's ever inside that vault will remain inside that vault, and what's outside that vault will not be able to penetrate that vault.
Good to know.
Here we have what are called grave liners, and the grave liners offer a minimum protection as far as sealing is concerned, because they are not sealed containers. The main purpose of a vault and grave liner isn't to preserve the body at all. It's actually to protect the casket remains from collapsing, as the weight of the earth can actually crush that casket without that grave liner.
And of course that brings to mind New Orleans, because it's all different there. Everything is above ground.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
I noticed the United States Army over here. I bet there are a lot of people, since we're in a patriotic community, that want something like this.
We do. We have actually, this is the United States Army emblem casket. We also have a casket for all branches of service, one for the U.S. Marine Corps, the Navy, as well as the Air Force. But and the interiors are individual. They are unique with the colors.
Well, and they make you feel comforted.
Yes.
There's something about that. Can we take a look at the urns,
Yes.
perhaps?
We're going to walk right in this room
Okay.
here. But I literally have catalogs that show hundreds and hundreds of urns.
So there's a lot more.
Oh yeah, this is just a small sample.
And a
that we have.
pillow.
And a pillow, yep, a memorial pillow,
goodness.
yep.
And in addition, I'm looking over here and I'm seeing, there's a lot
Orbs of glass.
Yes, orbs of glass. I see more and more people that are getting necklaces and things like that. They're trying to divide up the ashes amongst family members.
They call that urn jewelry, and it is very popular in our American society. Yeah.
We've come a long way from going in the wood-built box that went in the ground, right?
Call those toe pinchers.
Is that what they call it?
In the industry, we call those toe pinchers, yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, it's hard to make a decision
Yeah.
on what you really want, but you can go from elaborate to not.
Well, lots of times people come in and they'll say, well, Dad was a cowboy, and you know what? This speaks to the cowboy.
It's just perfect.
Or Mom liked butterflies. We have our butterfly urn here. It's just just a beautiful little urn. And forever in our hearts. This is such a special saying that people come in and they'll see that and they'll say that's the one.
Of course, as we're heading down the hall, something else caught my eye. I thought you had to go somewhere else to pick out a gravestone.
Well, you can, but we also sell them as far as our service as well. It's an extension of our service, if you will.
One stop,
One
if
stop.
you like,
One
because
stop.
really
Yep.
people would like to get all
Yep.
of this taken care
Yes, people come by, and if they're dealing with one of our local cemeteries or even a neighboring cemetery, we can actually order whatever headstone that is allowed in that particular cemetery. They can be flat markers, they can be upright markers, and we can design those within the budget or within the budget of the family.
But you said allowed, so it's
Yeah.
different at every cemetery?
Cemeteries do have different requirements, yes. Some cemeteries you can have upright monuments. There are some cemeteries where they only allow flat monuments or flat markers. We have the military that we work with regularly. They'll provide a government issue headstone or grave marker, and those can either be, this particular one is cast bronze. Those can be set on a piece of concrete slab, or we can have a government issue granite stone that'll be a slab of granite about 4 inches thick. Again, the same information will be applied to those gravestones, and they can be placed in whichever cemetery the individual is laid to rest.
Good to know.
Yep.
All right, let's head on to the next
Continue up the hallway.
room.
Watch your step right there.
Thank you. Tim, we're in a viewing room, so just kind of give us an overview of what takes place in here.
Again, all of our rooms, especially our public rooms, we want them to be nicely furnished, and we want them to look pretty, is what we want. We want people to feel at peace. We want them to feel something when they come through the doors here. This room is one of our small viewing rooms, and this is a place where we invite family members to come. If they're planning to have a cremation of their loved one and they don't want to have a public formal viewing, we invite the family privately to gather in this room where we'll have their loved one resting on a dressing table that we have made up like a bed. So when they come in, it's a real positive, warm setting for them. And they could come and spend an hour or two with their loved one before the cremation takes place.
And that's comforting.
That is, and again, that's an extension of our service. There's no additional charge for that whenever we arrange for those private family viewing times.
And how many of the viewing rooms do you have here at this location?
I have the small one here, and then I have the larger one in our chapel.
We are in the overflow room, but one of the things that I want to make sure that people know, because as you and I have walked around, I see so many things they are yours. They are things that mean something to you. This is not just a funeral home. This is not just an overflow room.
Yeah, this is, if you will, this is an extension of my home. And I've decorated a lot of the walls in here with my own personal things and stuff that I don't have room for at my own house. So this is a great place to display them and share the beauty of them, and also the peaceful message or the peaceful feeling that I get whenever I look at things hanging on the walls here.
Well, all these different things that hang on the walls, they have history.
They do.
They all have a story. We've been talking about some of them. We were even talking about a person that we both knew that meant a lot to us. And, you know, it brings back memories. And now I know.
These are Buck's, I have to tell you the story. These are Buck's candle vases. I had the privilege to, Buck won't mind me sharing this.
No, he's listening.
I had the privilege after Buck's funeral service to drive him to Arlington National Cemetery, and
you had to wait.
We waited. It was 2 months.
Yes.
But anyways, we were able to drive him back, and I drove him back there in the heat of the summer. And along the way, there was a little antique store, and I stopped and I got these. And anyways, these are Buck's. Those are Buck's candlesticks. I don't know what you want to call those, but.
Wow. Well, and for those that don't know, we were talking about Buck Biddle.
Yeah.
He was an icon up here. He's a legend. He was able, he knew who to get in touch with.
He knew how to get the job done.
He was the fixer. He could do it. He had a dream that you and I were the only ones at his funeral.
Yep, he told me we were the only ones sitting on the front pew. There's no one else there.
Amazing. You know, we all have thoughts, and I noticed in the hallway, talking about all of these things that are special to you, the dash. Many people have heard that poem, and it means so much because when you look at a tombstone or you read an obituary, you see the day someone was born and you see the day that they died. But it's that time in between that really matters.
Dash that matters the most.
What you did with your life.
That's the story.
It is.
That's the story.
One other thing I really want to touch on, because I know that these are trying times. Money is always an issue, and nobody wants to have to talk about money. You don't want to get the lesser thing if you could do better. But how do people take care of the arrangements when they are financially strapped? What are some of the options?
Well, we always encourage families to come in and participate and support their family members, whether if they're able to make a contribution to the effort, that would be great. But families can turn to their community of friends for help, and their friends will help. They can contact their clergy for financial assistance, and if the church is able to participate, they surely will. There is actually a company out there. There are companies out there who will lend money to an individual. They can actually finance their funeral as well, or cremation. So there are a number of ways. Lots of times people already have life insurance in place. And I tell folks, let that life insurance take care of the financial aspect of the arrangements. You know, we'll gladly wait for the death benefit to be paid, and we can help you fill out all that necessary claim forms.
Oh, I'm glad to know that, because I think a lot of people wanted to know that. And one of the other things I've seen a lot are people have had to resort to GoFundMe and so forth. And you know, nobody wants a friend of theirs to have that burden at a time that they are mourning. They want to help. I mean, everybody wants to help.
People want to help.
One of the things that I learned a long time ago in advertising is about color, and it's important. And I never really understood why people wore black at funerals, because before, that's all you ever wore was black. You were in mourning. But black absorbs, and people hug you. They're telling you the good stories. You are absorbing all of that at a time that you need it. But what most people don't realize is that after the funeral is over, you know, people call for a short while. And then there's that period where there is nothing. It's not that they really have forgotten about you. You're the one that is grieving. They have moved on. And that love that you have absorbed in wearing that black has come inside of you, and you will draw on it the next few months or even longer. It's going to save you. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
I'm glad you came.
Thank you kindly.
So, thank you for coming.